Hi, welcome back or welcome to my channel. If you're new, my name is Laura. Hi, hello, welcome. Today, I figured we could do a video about, I say we, me and you, us, hi. Sometimes I talk to myself in these videos and I say we and I mean me and past me, but today, I mean you and me, baby, we're in this video together. So for this video, I kind of wanted to talk about my 5 most interesting color stories in my collection. All right, so out of my 43 eye palettes that I have in my collection, these are the 5 most interesting color stories that I have in my collection. And I just want to say, interesting is definitely an opinion. These opinions can change. So what is my favorite palette and my favorite color stories now may be very well different than color stories in 2 years time, or maybe past me is like, girl, these, But current me who's filming, loves these color stories and thinks that these are the most unique in my collection. And I tried to just tailor it down to 5 and keep it to the most interesting, like the top most interesting palettes. I couldn't quite get 10, and then I had 8, and I was like, I'm just gonna cut it down to 5. So here we are. We have the 5 most interesting palettes, and I'm gonna go in order of what I think is the least interesting all the way down to what I think is the most interesting. And to kick it off on this, I kind of went with one that I feel like people probably will think that this is not an interesting color story, and there's a couple shades in this palette which kind of puts it over like the other ones in my collection and why I count this as one of the more interesting color stories. And unfortunately, I believe this is the only item in here. I believe this is the only item in this that is discontinued. So I do apologize in advance. However, if you have this palette, hopefully this inspires you to get some love in it. So the very first palette I'm going to kick off with is my Kaleidos Futurism 4 VR Neon. So the VR Neon palette is kind of just a rainbow palette, really. And that's where I kind of am like, maybe this is not really that interesting. However, I find this a very interesting palette. Especially it is rainbow, but it's more like even brighter rainbow than normal. And the reason I put this guy in here is mostly for these 2 shimmer shades, which are beautiful. But this green is just so dreamy. Like this acidy kind of green is just incredible. And the red eyeshadow is like a true red. So I think that for those reasons alone, I mean, this is only a 6-pan eyeshadow palette, and I find for at least half are extremely interesting shades, like that green, the 2 shimmers, and then we could kind of say like that red is like super beautiful too. So more than half of the palette I think is just absolutely stunning in this, and that is why this is my 5th most interesting palette in my collection. So kind of keeping on the same wavelength of like maybe this could be counted as something boring and not super interesting in my collection, but for some reason I find this palette in particular, it's like a neutral palette on steroids. So if you want like a super neutral look, you can definitely get it using this palette. But if you want something a little bit brighter, a little bit more out there, and maybe that is a little bit of a stretch, but if you want something a little bit more colorful, it does fall into this palette's realm. And for that, I picked my Dreamy 2 palette by Nabla Cosmetics. And first of all, can we just take a look at this beautiful, stunning packaging? Oh my gosh. Like, if that doesn't scream like dreamscape, dream catcher, like I truly don't know what does. But this is kind of like my neutral palette on like kicked up a notch, like Emerald Lagasse would say, kick it up a notch. So this has some very staple, neutral, everyday kind of shades where you have these more like brown pops of color, but then you have these like very interesting like periwinkle, like deep periwinkle shades. Even this guy, like this is a nice, beautiful duochrome. Oh, I just think this palette is so unique and so special, and I don't really hear many people talk about this. Maybe when it first released, it was hyped up a little bit more, but I definitely bought it when the hype died down, and I kind of was like, I want to try Nabla. I didn't know which palette to get. This seemed like a good option, and I truly love it. The only shade that kind of disappoints me is the shade REM or REM, and it's just because it's such a transparent base with like glitter, and I just like my palettes and my shimmers and everything to just be super impactful all at once. I don't want to have to work and fuss and deal with it. I just want boom, payoff immediately, and REM in this palette just doesn't do it for me, unfortunately. Then another one where it's kind of just not, it's not like the most revolution, well, I don't know. I will let you be the judge of it, but it's definitely a color story that like screams my name. Haley, I know it screams your name too. The Avocado Toast palette by BH Cosmetics. This palette is just so stunning to me. She is so pretty. I truly don't know what my favorite shade in this palette is. So far I've used a handful of them. However, I know that might be cheating, but I really base this off of like aesthetic looking, not necessarily the formulation of it. But aesthetically, I just think like the pinks, like these kind of warm, like everyday staple shades, Over Easy, Paprika, and Pit, like those ones can kind of go and tailor with any of these or a lot of these shades. Like Over Easy helps with those greens, Paprika and Pit help with more of these pink tones. You have some of these cooler kind of greens, you have like warmer greens. I just love this. I think that this is so beautiful, super unique. It's not like you would never think of doing this kind of color story because these kinds of shades go together, but I think that not many brands have paired these kinds of colors together, and BH Cosmetics took the leap and did, and I think that they did a fantastic job, and every shade that I've used in here, the formula has been phenomenal. The second most interesting palette in my collection ranks number 2 only because it doesn't have as much variety in terms of textures and finishes in the palette. And that's the only reason why this ranked lower than number 1, is just because I can't, for me personally, I can't do a one and done palette kind of look. This is mostly a topper palette in like really special shades, and that's kind of why it's so high up. That is the Adept Cosmetics Plain Jane Remastered palette. This is, I believe, the current one that they sell of the Plain Jane palettes. And this palette is so beautiful. But there are so many beautiful duo and multi-chrome shades in this palette. Like this guy here is one of those like deep based multi-chromes. And then these two up here are some of those deeper based multi-chromes. But this is mostly a palette of toppers and like special shades. And that's why this ranks so high. Is just, this is an absolutely special palette in my collection. This is a very unique palette in my collection because I don't have like these kinds of extra special shades in any other palette of mine except for this one. And then there is a couple special shades in the next palette we're going to talk about. But Plain Jane Remastered, Adept Cosmetics. I'm so sad Adept doesn't do singles anymore because I would buy a ton of them. The last palette ranking number 1, and it's a shame because it's a palette that I haven't really given myself permission to use it. It's one of the palettes Haley sent me at the end of last year, very beginning of this year. I can't remember exact date when the package arrived, but she did send me a very sweet care package. It was either for my birthday, Christmas, beginning of the year. I don't really know, but she did send a few palettes my way, and this one does rank in there. Funny enough, the Avocado Toast, my third place, the Middle Ground palette, was also sent by Haley, but my first place is going to be the Feral palette, and there's just something so special about this color story. It's kind of rainbow-esque, but not. Like, I don't really count this as a rainbow palette, even though a lot of the spectrum of rainbow is on this palette, and it's mostly because the shimmer shades are more of those like duo or multi-chromes. So I would wager these are, the green here and then the pink up here are more sparkle, like shimmer shades with a flip. So almost like they could be classified as duochromes, those two. But the shade up here, Wolfing, like surprises me every time I look at it. I'm kind of just like, meh, it's okay. And then I swatch it and see the dimension that that shade has. It's incredible. And these mattes are so creamy and blendable and like so buttery. And I truly am inspired. Every time I look at this palette, I'm like, oh my gosh, I could do so much with it. Like, you could do something super simple with these kinds of shades, doing like a very simple look. As I'm looking at this shade here and this shade look very similar, but as like on my monitor, this shade here looks so purple which means like you could pair it with this purple here and then this like peachy corally shade. Clearly like these greens kind of would work together with that yellow over here. And then just some other staple like fun colors. Like I totally feel like you could do a look with that row. Just super, super special. And I truly think that this is a very incredible color story. But those are my top 5 palettes for color stories in my collection. I have, as I mentioned, 43 palettes, including these guys. I have 43 of them. I just think that these are the most special. These are definitely the most special ones that I have. Let me know if there's anything that I'm missing out on that I need to try and see. So just as a thank you for sticking through, watching this video, subscribing, supporting me as you guys always do, I did want to say thank you in a form other than just me verbally saying thank you. I did actually purchase something for you guys for a little giveaway, and I didn't want to kind of say it super like at the beginning of the video or like have it in the tagline. This is just for you guys that subscribe, follow, watch all the way through. Just so you know, I do appreciate you so, so much. But I ended up purchasing one of the Fantasy Cosmetica Druid palettes for you guys. So this stunning beauty, I will have a color story go up, or the swatch of it go up here. Now, this is my my personal one. You guys will have an untouched, already wrapped up version in that box again. But I did want to say this is a beautiful palette. It would have been featured in this video. However, we were at the 5 threshold, but this is kind of like the honorable mention. I did just kind of want to purchase one, support Fantasy Cosmetica, because they're so sweet, so incredible, and I want them to continue to pump out these beautiful palettes. The formula of this is incredible. But just a couple rules to enter this giveaway. 1, clearly, obviously, subscribe to my channel here on YouTube. I will be checking if you are subscribed. 2, follow my Instagram. The tag is always in like this portion of the screen at the beginning of the video, but I always link my Instagram over in the description box as well. And 3, I would like you guys to leave a comment on what your favorite color story in a palette has been. It could be a palette that you have. It could be a palette that you pined after and don't have, but you're still like, girl, I want her. She's so pretty, but can't or didn't get your hands on it. And then also make sure to leave one of the dancing lady emojis, the one with like the women in the red dress. I'll have a picture of it here, but put that in your comment, anywhere in the comment, with the answer to what color story in a palette inspired you the most or that you're pining after the most. And I will be selecting randomly someone to receive the Fantasy Cosmetics Druid palette of your own, so you guys can play and love and enjoy this. But yeah, I will have this open for a week, so this is going to go up on the 7th, so the 14th. Y'all have till the 14th of June 2022 to leave that comment. Let me know, and one of you will be receiving this beauty. But that is it for this video. Thank you so much again for watching. I truly appreciate it. I love that you guys are part of the cutie family, you little cuties yourself. But I will see you guys in my next video. Until then, I hope you guys are staying healthy, sane, and safe. And I'll catch you in my next video. Bye!